Now coming to our today's class, in the last we are receiving agile process models. In the last class, we saw an important topic. We call it as Scrum. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We covered the Scrum topic in the last class. So this is the most important model among agile, which follows agile methodologies. So it is mostly used in industries. So apart from this, there are other models also, but compared to all those things, Scrum is the mostly used one in software industries. Now coming to the Scrum framework, we saw this life cycle. So before going into life cycle, I just gave you the flowchart representation of that life cycle. So in this, we are having 3 persons involved. All the persons who are involved in that framework will play 3 roles. We call that roles as product owner and Scrum master and the team. All the persons who are involved in that framework will play either of these 3 roles. Either he will be a product owner, either he will be a Scrum master, or they will be a team members, right? Now, who is this product owner? This product owner is responsible for preparing this product backlog. Now, what this product backlog contains is the product owner is going to interact with the client, and he is going to gather all the requirements, what the client wants, and he is going to frame them in product backlog. These are all the requirements which the client wants us to do in our project, right? There will be number of requirements which the client requests us to do, right? And from this, as this is an incremental model, right? We are releasing the product in different increments. From the list of features that are given by the client, the team will select which module to be completed first, which feature to be completed first. This is called as sprint backlog. Which increment, which feature they are going to provide in this present iteration among all the features given by the client, that is written in the sprint backlog. In this sprint backlog will contain plan. Now, what is a sprint? We call the sprint as an increment which should be delivered within a time box. Time box is nothing but a fixed period. An increment which should be given within a time box is called as a sprint, right? We'll be using this terminologies here. Now, this sprint backlog contains the feature which I should release in this increment, right? And next, after the sprint backlog is prepared, the sprint is developed within 2 to 4 weeks of time. So we don't take much time to release our product. It should be released fastly. Mostly it should be released, every increment should be released within 2 to 4 weeks of time. So within this 2 to 4 weeks of time, daily meetings should be conducted among all the team members to share their information, which will have very short time duration. Now there should be someone who should monitor all these things, monitoring the daily meetings that should be conducted by the team members, or give all the things, all the requirements which the team wants in order to develop. Once the team goes into the development phase, they can't go and search for all the things they want. They just start their coding part, right? They start their development process. In that development process, they will be in need of some requirements which should be provided by some person. So that X person is called as a Scrum Master. Now the Scrum Master is responsible to coordinate all these team members, to conduct all the daily meetings, to give all the things that team members want in order to develop, right? So that is the job of the Scrum Master. And the team is going to develop the product. After developing the product, they are going to release the product to the client. While releasing the product to the client, they conduct a sprint review. In this sprint review, the client is involved. The members will be giving the demo of what product they have developed, what increment they have developed, and how it functions. All these kinds of things will be given as a demo for the client and the rest of the people. Now, after this one, we are having sprint retrospective. In this retrospective, we consider the experiences that we have undergone while developing this increment. We take all those into considerations. We take all the pros and cons into considerations, and next we plan for the next increment. That is done in sprint retrospectives. So, right. So this is the overall life cycle framework of Scrum, which is very important topic. So this is the framework which is given on our textbook. The same thing which I told you in flowchart is represented here. This is the product backlog. From this product backlog, one backlog is taken. That is called a sprint backlog, which feature you are going to develop now. And from that, the development starts. So within 30 days of time, that is within 4 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks of time, the development of one increment should be completed. While developing this product, for every 24 hours, that is for every 1 day, a Scrum meeting should be conducted. A Scrum daily meeting should be conducted. So that will be at most 15 minutes duration. They don't take much time for conducting meetings. They don't sit and do all these kinds of things. They will be just in a standing position. We'll have a quick review of what has done in the last Scrum, what they have done yesterday, what obstacles they have faced, and what they are going to do for the next before the next meeting. What is done yesterday, what is done today, what issues they have faced, and what should be planned for tomorrow's things. So they'll have a quick 15 minutes review of all those things and discuss, right? And after the product is developed within 2 to 4 weeks, the increment is given to the client. So, right. And after the increment, again, we move on to the next increment. So this is a Scrum, which is very important topic, which we had a detailed explanation in the last class. And now coming to another agile model, right? We are seeing different process models of agile, which implements agile functionalities, agile methodologies. Among them, one of the thing is dynamic system development method, DSDM, also called as ATOM. So this dynamic system development method is an agile software development approach that provides a framework for building and maintaining systems which meet tight time constraints through the use of incremental prototype in a collective project environment. So I have given a very long sentence, but the meaning is very, very much simple. Now, what is this DSDM? This is an agile software development approach. This follows an agile software development approach. This follows all the agile principles, all the agile modules. So, right, it provides a framework. This DSDM provides a framework for what? For building and maintaining systems. What kind of projects, in what kind of projects will go for DSDM is, if in your project you are having very tight time constraints, very tight, that is, you need to deliver the product quickly. In our traditional models, if you are having these constraints, we go for RAID, Rapid Application Development Process Model, that is called as RAID model. When you will choose that RAID model is when you want to develop your product quickly within short time, then we go for RAID model. So that same thing is apted here. So if you want to develop your project quickly and if you are having very less time constraint, very less time, and you need to deliver your product increment, for quick product things, we go for DSDM, right? We'll be using incremental prototype. You know what is this incremental kind of thing? We are keeping on repeatedly telling. And prototyping is nothing but a model, right? So in this DSDM, we'll be using incremental prototype in a control project environment. So this is DSDM, right? And DSDM philosophy is borrowed from a modified version of Pareto principle. I think most of the people will be knowing this Pareto principle in our real life also. This is a principle which is followed in real life by most of the people. What this Pareto principle tells us is 80% of an application can be delivered in 20% of the time it would take to deliver the complete 100% applications. So what it is saying is 80% of the application can be delivered within 20% of time. Among the time given you, within that 100% of time, 80% of the application can be delivered within 20% of time. That is what we are saying. If you take any real life example, you generally notice in any business areas also, for suppose I'm having a app of this Swiggy or all these kinds of things, any food applications, food apps, you generally notice that among all the 100% people, 20% of people will be mostly using that application. And because of this 20% of people only, they will make 80% of business. So there are some people who are always used for outside food, right? among all the 100% of people, only 20% of people will be using that application mostly, will order the food from outside. Because of this 20% of people only, they will make 80% of the business. They'll get most of the business from this 20% of the people. For suppose in your class, in your class, you're having 100% students, 100 students. If I ask you to organize some freshers day, some events, some freshers day, some tech fest, all these kinds of things, if I ask you to organize one event, even though your 100 students are responsible for organizing that event, but among you, 20% of students will be present who will be more active. And because of this 20% of students only, my 80% of organizing the work will be done. And rest of the people will, because of those people, I'll not get that much work done. But only because of 20% of active students in my class, most of the work will be done for me to conduct that event, right? So this is what the Pareto principle tells us. Now, why I'm saying this Pareto principle in this DSDM is, this DSDM follows this philosophy. This agrees this philosophy. This DSDM says that when you are releasing the product in different increments, in most of the, for suppose if the client gave you 100% features to do, if we want you to do different features, which I'll call it as 100% features, then when you are releasing the product in increment, in most of the cases, among those 100% features which the client wants, 80% of the features will be done in the first increment only, right? Among all the things, most of the features will be released in the first increments only, and rest of the 20% which are of less use will be released in the next versions. So this that is the reason we say that the DSDM philosophy follows this Pareto principle, right? Sorry, I have not made my screen match till now. So are you able to see my screen clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now coming to this guidelines that DSDM follows is or basic principles which are different from rest of the models is active user involvement is imperative. So as I already told you, one of the in Agile Manifesto, one of the main principle is you should always involve the clients in your model, in your development process, right? So active user involvement, your user is the client or the developers. This user involvement is always imperative. Imperative in the sense you should give some sort of authorities to those users. They should be given some sort of authorities so that they can tell their decisions, they can take the decisions, all these kinds of things. So that is one of the principle. And DSDM team must be empowered to make decisions. That is what we are saying in different models also regarding Agile. All the team members, all the members who are involved in the Agile team, they should be empowered to take some sort of self decisions. Not completely is done in spoon feeding type of thing. They are having enough knowledge, so they should be given some authorities to take their own decisions. This is one of the guiding principle. And next one is the focus is on frequent delivery of products. So the main focus of this model is to deliver the product frequently. That is what we call as RAID, frequent delivery of products. Rapid application development process models that follows frequent delivery of products. So that is what we are following in this model also, DSDM also. And next, fitness for business purpose is the essential criteria for acceptance of deliveries. So the main purpose of this DSDM is fitting all the business purpose needs, business requirements needs. So you know what are business requirements, what will be user requirement. For suppose if I am a person, I'm having lot of money, I'm financially enough, I want to make some business then what I'll do is I want to make a business by developing some application. Take the case of a food application only. I'm the person who I'm having money enough. I want to start a business. I want to start a food business. Now I want to start by the name some Swiggy or something like that. I'll go to an organization and ask them to develop an application for me so that I can make my business. So here business purpose is, business requirements are all the requirements from the scope of the owner who is sponsoring. Now I am the owner who is going to sponsor the money in order to start the business. So I'm having some ideas in my mind, all those which will make me good business in the market. Now I am having some ideas in my mind so that I can make good business in the market. So all the business requirements are from the owner's point of view, from the scope of the owners, from the owner point of view, what are the objectives you want. So those are the business requirements. So this DSDM always concentrate on the business requirements, he always concentrate on satisfying the business requirements. Whoever is sponsoring that project, they always want to satisfy the client. And user requirements will be different. For suppose if I the same Swiggy application, all the persons who are using that Swiggy in order to order the food will come under user. So as per the user requirements, what we generally expect is it should be easy to use that application. It should be attractive, all these kinds of things. That is user requirements from user's point of view. But from business point of view, from owner's point of view, what the owner wants is the main thing that is considered in DSDM, right? And next one is incremental and iterative development. So this incremental and iterative development is always necessary to coverage on an accurate business solution. In order to satisfy the business needs, the product should be developed in incremental and iterative fashion. This is what we saw in rest of the models also. We don't wait for a long time, for 1 year of time and make the project done and then we start the business. If I wait 1 year of time to get that Swiggy application done by any organization, by that 1 year of time, there will be number of applications that are developed regarding this food and which are used in the market. So I don't wait that much of time, right? So my product should be developed incrementally and iteratively until I am satisfied. Now all changes during development are reversible. So what this means is agile methodology always tells us that it is adaptive to changes, right? In the next increment, I can use what are the changes I want, what are the new requirements I want, I can tell them and they will be included in the next increments, so on, right? So what it is telling is all changes during the development are reversible. For suppose yesterday I told one change and after 1 week I told some other change. And at one point of time, I want the change which I told previously to be included. I can go back and include the changes. I've done something yesterday and today I have included some other new thing. At one point of time, I'll decide that no, I don't want this new thing. I want the yesterday's change only. So I can go back and include those things. So that is called as reversible. Okay, right? And next, requirements are baselined at a high level. Here requirements are mainly concentrating on business requirements, what the business people want, what the client want to meet his business requirements. So all those business requirements that are told by the client are baselined at the high level. For suppose if the client tells you that your application to take backup, your application should run all the 24 hours, their application should provide this kind of security feature. So all these features will be given by the client, right? So all the features that are told by the client, all the requirements that are told by the client will be baselined at a high level, will be written to implement at the high level, right? So these are the guiding principles which DSDM team follows. So, right? So what we are saying, the team should be given some authorities, the user should be given some authorities. It is mainly focusing on frequent delivery of product. It is mainly focusing to meet the business requirements. The product should be developed in incremental approach, iterative approach. Any changes can be reversible and all the business requirements are baseline at a high level. Now this is the life cycle of DSDM. So it contains 4 phases. One is the first one is feasibility foundations. You call it as feasibility foundation. Next is exploration. If you notice that this exploration is having an arrow in a circle, that is, it is incremental. This exploration will be keeping on continuing until the correct thing is, until the thing is satisfied by the client, until the plan is satisfied by the client. And engineering, this is also an incremental thing. We keep on continuing the iterations until the plan is satisfied. And finally, the deployment. So these are the 4 phases in this DSDM life cycle. First one is feasibility foundations. This feasibility foundation is having, if you notice here, I'm having a break here. We are having two things here. One is technical feasibility and the next one is business studies. So one is technical feasibility. One is technical feasibility, and the next one is business studies. And similarly, if you notice here, you are having four components here. Four components here, and the same is done here. Four components you are having here. So in this four components, one will be here. We'll be concentrating on the functional model, functionalities, how the plan, what should be included, how it is reviewed, and how it is developed, and finally the plan is agreed. That is what will be included here. And here the designing, 4 phases will be included, and next the deployment. We'll see this in detail. Now coming to this first one. Coming to this first one, that is feasibility foundations. So in this feasibility foundations, I told you we'll be having 2 parts. First one is feasibility study and the next one is business study, right? Now coming to this one, coming to feasibility study, in this phase, the problem is defined and the technical feasibility of the desired application is verified. Now you are giving a project to develop. First of all, you should do the feasibility study. In this feasibility study, we will be considering the technical feasibility. Technical feasibility in the sense, what are the software requirements you need to develop that project? What are the hardware requirements? What are the system configuration? What RAM you require, or what extra memory do you require to perform that application? In order to do that project, what are the technical things that you require? Hardware, software, system configurations, all these kinds of things. So you'll verify what you have and you'll check what new things should be required in order to continue that project, right? I'm having I'm having my hardware. I'm having these hardware things. I need some extra hardware things in order to do that project. That is what you will be identifying. I'm having this software. I'm having some software like R software or some kind of software at present. In order to do that project, I need some Python software. So these are all the things you will be considering this technical feasibility. So what you are doing here is, in order to solve this problem, the technical feasibility of the desired application is verified. So right, apart from these routine tasks, it is also checked whether the application is suitable for rapid application development approach or not. So I already told you this DSDM always will deliver the product quickly, right? That is, it is going to follow RAD, rapid application development. First of all, I should choose that, I should verify that whichever project I'm going to develop, will it be suitable for me to develop rapidly, to implement rapid application development. If that is possible only, then only I can go for that development, or else I'll stop in the beginning itself. So, right, if I'm having that flexibility of developing the product, incrementing the products quickly only, developing it quickly only, then only we'll go for the next phase. That is what we are saying. Only if the RAD is found as a justified approach for the desired system, then the development continues, or else you will be stopping in the beginning itself. That is what the technical feasibility tells us. Feasibility tells us about the technical feasibility, checking about the technical feasibility and checking whether the product can be developed in RAD approach. If not, we'll stop there. And next, business study tells us in this phase, the overall business study of the desired system is done. So, right, what are the business requirements the client wants? As I already told you, what requirements the client, what are the things from the sponsor's point of view, from the client point of view, who is sponsoring you, what is his objectives. So the overall business study is done. Why? Because in the beginning itself, I told you, this is mainly focusing on concentrating on meeting the business requirement needs, satisfying the business requirement need, right? So that is the reason in this phase, the business study of the desired system is done. The business requirements are specified at a high level and the information requirements out of the system is identified. So all the business requirements that the client want, for suppose the client wants us to do this kind of thing. He wants us to develop these modules. He wants us to provide this feature in his application. He wants us to provide this kind of security in his application. So all these kinds of things will be given in order to meet his business requirements, right? So all those things are identified on baseline. Once this is done, the basic architectural framework of the desired system is done. Once all the business requirements are identified, all the requirements that the client wants are identified, then our basic architecture framework is prepared here. This is what we do in this feasibility foundations. Here I'm doing the technical feasibility, how far it is technically feasible, I'm checking here. And next I'm doing a complete business study. What are all the business requirements, and I'm outlining what are all the features the client wants. That is done in feasibility foundations. And next one is exploration. Here we will be concentrating on functional modeling. So I'll also call this as functional modeling. See, functional model iteration. We call it as functional model iteration or exploration. The main focus of this phase is on building the prototype iteratively and getting it reviewed from the user to bring out the requirements of the desired system. So what is the main intention in this phase is the client wants us all these kinds of functional requirements. What the system should do. So functional requirements are what the system or application you are developing should do, what features it should provide. That is called as functional requirements, right? So the client gave us some functional functional requirements which are supposed to do. The main focus in this phase is building the prototype iteratively, as we already saw in the previous models, prototyping model. Actually, when the client tells you all his requirements, you will develop a prototype, a model, a rough model quickly, and give him that model. That model can be either a throwaway model, which might not be useful, or an evolutionary model. Any model, any prototype, you'll show to the client and and ask his review. Is this you want us to develop? You're not developing the code here, but you are preparing a model, how the project is going to look like, and you will show it to the client and take his review, right? And take his feedback from him. If the client is satisfied that one with that prototype, then you start developing the prototype. And if the client says that in this model, in this, not this, I want some other new thing to be included, then you start including the changes in the prototype, right? So a rough model, a plan, when coming to a civil engineer, we call it as a plan. Before going into the actual construction part on site, we prepare a plan, right? And seeing that plan, we'll make the changes if necessary in the plan itself. So here prototype is nothing but a model or a plan which you prepared. You show that plan to the user and take his willingness, right? The prototype is improved through demonstration to the user, taking the feedback and incorporating the changes. So that is what you told. You demonstrate your prototype to the user, take the feedback from him, and if he requests any changes, then you incorporate all those changes. This cycle is repeated generally twice or thrice until a part of functional model is agreed upon. So that is the reason we gave a incremental arrow kind of thing, which is done repeatedly. Now this is done repeatedly for twice or thrice. This cycle is repeated for 2 or 3 times until the client is satisfied with that functional model. Until then, we keep on developing some prototype and show it to the client and take his willingness, right? So if you consider this functional model, there are 4 phases here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we'll do is here you'll identify the functional prototype, and next you'll review the prototype. You'll review the model which you have prepared, and next you create that model. You create a rough model of the prototype, and if he is satisfied, then generally you prepare a plan here. So all this is related to the functional model only. So here I'm identifying what functionalities are that should be present in that model. Here again I'll review the things that I identified, and here I'll prepare the model, and finally here I'll prepare the plan. If the user accepts that model, then I'll prepare the plan, and next I'll move on to the next phase. So this red arrow is showing that I'm moving on to the next phase, right? Now here is engineering, and this engineering is nothing but the design or build iteration. Engineering, you call it as design or build iteration. It revisits prototypes built during functional model iteration to ensure that each has been engineered in a manner that will enable it to provide operational business values to the end user. It's very simple. Whatever prototype you have prepared in this functional model, which the client agreed, that will again be reviewed in this phase also. Why? Because to make sure that whether that will provide operational business values to the end users, whether it will give you the business values to the end users. In order to recheck it again the same prototype which is built in the previous one is rechecked again in this design and build iteration. In some cases, functional model iteration and design and build iteration occur concurrently. In some cases, maybe both of the things can occur concurrently. So, right, that is what is done in this engineering build design. Again, here you are having 4 phases. Again, the same thing, whatever I told here. Here you are preparing functional model, but here you are preparing design model, right? Design prototype. You'll identify the design prototype. So, right, you'll review the design prototype. Again, you'll create the design prototype, and you'll prepare the plan. Here you are identifying the functionalities. Here you are designing. So design prototype, creating, reviewing, and finally preparing the plan, right? So that is again done incrementally twice or thrice until the client is satisfied. So again, I'm having a circle here repeatedly, right? And after this red arrow shows that I'm moving on to the deployment phase. So this deployment is nothing but implementation phase. Here actually the implementation starts. The coding and everything is starting. Till here we have done planning, here we have done designing. Now the implementation starts here. The product is developed here and deployed here. In this implementation is the last and final development stage in this methodologies. In this phase, the users are trained and the system is actually put into operational environment. So in this implementation phase, the product is actually developed. That is what we are saying here. So after the product is developed here, it is deployed to the user. That is, you are giving the demos to the user of what you have developed. So the user is trained and the system is actually put into operational environment. You go into real environment. At the end of this phase, there are 4 possibilities that occur. After giving the demo of what has been done until now to the user, to the client, generally 4 things might happen. The first one is everything was delivered as per the user demand. Whatever the user wants us to do, that we have developed successfully. So no further development is required. That is one thing that can happen. See here, everything is delivered, everything is done as the client wants us to do. So everything is successful. The user don't want any changes to be done again. So it is given to the next. It is what we call as post project. So the development is over. That is what we call here. That might happen, or a new functional area was discovered. So return to the business study phase and repeat the whole process. When you are giving a demo to the user of final product you have developed, maybe you identify the user wants some other new functionality. So in this Swiggy, maybe in this food application, I gave the access for only accessing within this time period, only from morning 6 o'clock to some evening 10 o'clock only. I gave the feature of, maybe the client wants us the feature to be extended for 24 hours. Initially, when he gave me, he asked me to develop for only 12 hours. After the completion of the product, he is asking to extend it for 24 hours or so. Any new functionality, right? So a new functional area was discovered. So return to the business study phase and repeat the whole process again. So that is what we are showing in this blue arrows, right? In this blue arrow shows that again a new functionality is identified. So again return back, starting from feasibility, again this exploration, again this engineering. Why? Because a complete new thing should be added again. So that might happen, or a less essential part of the project has missed out due to time constraint, and so development returns to the functional model iteration. So while preparing the plan, functional requirements, we came to a conclusion that this point is not that much important now. At this stage, this point is not that much important. So let us leave that point for now and concentrate on important things. So you develop the project accordingly. When you are giving the demo to the user, you came to it came to your notice that whichever point you left here, whichever thing you thought it as less important kind of thing, that the user wants, right? You neglected it because of time constraint. Why? Because this is rapid application development. You need to develop your product quickly. Because of time constraint, you neglected that small point. Now here the user wants that small point to be implemented. All right. Then again, what you'll do is again you'll return this to the functional model. See, this blue arrow is showing that the product from here is written to this functional model. Again, that new functionality is added. Again, the designing is done. Again, the deployment is done. That might happen. Or finally, some non-functional requirement was not satisfied. So development returns to the design and build. Some non-functional requirement. Functional requirements are different, and non-functional is functional requirement says how your system is developed, and non-functional requirement tells you how effective the system is developed. So, right, non-functional requirements are how easy it is to use the system. It can be either security, portability, reusability, all these kinds of things are non-functional requirements, right? So here you identify that some non-functional requirement is not satisfied. Maybe that application is not giving you enough security. So every person is able to access that application. That is not the thing we want, right? So some security feature is missing. Some non-functional requirement is not satisfied. So again, you'll return back to the design and build iterations. Again, you'll go back, return it back to the design and build iteration. Again, ask to include that in the design. Again, you'll develop accordingly. So these four things might happen. So what is the thing? First thing is, after delivering the product to the user, the product is fully satisfied, the client is fully satisfied. So you'll come to an end. Post-projecting is done. And second one is, they identified the client want new functionality to be added, new module to be added from the beginning. Then what you'll do, you'll return it to the feasibility foundations and start including that functionality from the beginning, right? And third thing is, it came to your notice that you missed one small unimportant kind of thing in your plan. Now the client wants that unimportant kind of thing to be included again. So then what you'll do is you'll return it to the functional model and ask to include that small point also. Because of time constraint, you neglected that point, but you want, now the user wants us to include that point. Again, you'll include that one. And finally, what might happen? You missed some non-functional thing. So, right, like security kind of thing, like portability kind of thing, reusable. You missed some non-functional requirement. That should be included. Again, you'll return back to the engineering. So these are the things that happen in this development after deploying to the user. So, right, student, these are the 4 phases of DSDM lifecycle. And coming to its limitations, what are the disadvantages of this model? It is relatively new model, so it is not very common, so it is difficult to understand. So it is a very new kind of thing to understand. That will be a disadvantage. And coming to the advantage, because of its active user participation throughout the life cycle of the project and iterative nature of the development improves quality of the product. Because of the user involvement in all the phases and because of its iterative nature development, finally you'll have a good quality product, right? And DSDM ensures rapid deliveries. The product is delivered rapidly, quickly, right? Because of both these things, the project cost will be reduced. We can say these are the disadvantages. And because it is difficult to understand by normal, as it is completely new model, you can say that is the disadvantage. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of this model. So this is the thing we saw in this class, DSDM, right? And these are the principles which should be followed. And next, this is the life cycle, which includes 4 phases: technical feasibility, business study, functional model preparation, design model preparation, right? Design and build iteration, and finally the deployment or implementation, right? So is it clear, students? Is that model clear? Shall we move on to next model? Is that clear? Or do you want me to repeat again? Any of you should respond. How will I know? Okay, students, moving on to the next model. So number 87. Number 87.
Ma'am,
What are the 4 phases we saw in this DSTM life cycle? Number 87.
Exploration, engineering, deployment.
Feasibility study lo మనం 2 parts చూసాం ఏంటవి అవి?
Technical
feasibility and
feasibility, business studies.
business study. Okay, exploration lo
Modeling.
functional model preparation lo. Next one, engineering lo
Design and build.
design model, and finally deployment lo ఏం చేస్తున్నాం మనం?
Most to the users.
Okay,
To
you are
get trained.
implementing your project completely and delivering it to the user and taking the feedback. And demo ఇచ్చినప్పుడు మనకి 4 things might happen అని చెప్పాం. First one is కొత్తగా functionality యాడ్ చేయాల్సి రావచ్చు. Next one is new functional some functional feature which we missed in the beginning should be implemented now. And next one is some non-functional requirement which we did not consider might be implemented. And the last one is there is no need to go for any implementation. The user is completely satisfied. So these are the things that might happen, right? And now coming to our next topic. Next process model is crystal. So as the crystal, you'll see the crystals, right? Crystals with different colors. And you see a crystal, it will be showing different colors from different angles, right? So that, or a completely crystal, a completely white crystal, yellow crystal, red crystal, all this. So crystal is an agile methodology for software development. It places focus on people over process. So this is an agile methodology. It mainly focus on agile value, which we told you in the beginning. In the agile manifesto, you are having one agile value which says us that always people should be given more important when compared to process and tools. Now this crystal mainly focuses on that value. It focuses on people over process to empower teams to find the solutions for each project rather than being constricted with rigid methodologies. It gives us a flexibility that when it come to general survey, they came to know that the successfulness of any project depends upon the team members, team size, the criticality, the complexity of that project, or the priority of that project. Making a study of all these things, finally they recognize that different teams will perform differently depending upon the team size, criticality, and priority of the project. So this crystal method, what it does is it encourages users to adapt a framework for their individual solution. So one kind of people will be doing in this framework. If I'm having less size of people, team members, then this kind of framework will be suitable. If I'm having some more number of team members, then another kind of framework will be suitable. If I go for that framework, then only my product will be successful, right? So what this finally crystal tells us is a crystal family is actually a set of example agile process that has been proven effectively for different types of projects. The intent is to allow agile teams to select the member of the crystal family that is most appropriate for their project and environment. So this crystal is nothing but a crystal family, which tells us that based on the team members size, based on the criticality, if you go for this family, this framework, then you will be successful. If I go for this framework, then I'll be successful. So this crystal tells us this kind of thing. So for example, so students, we are sorry, we are running out of the time. I'll end the I'll end the class for